airstrike on 3 different nuclear sites in Iran. The sites are the much-discussed Fordow site, Natanz, and Isfahan. President Trump says all U.S. planes are now outside of Iranian airspace, and he posted this on Truth Social. If you come back into the studio with me here, I want to show you what President Trump, he's been very active on Truth Social, and we do anticipate that we'll hear from the president from the White House in about 22 minutes or so. But if you zoom out, take a look at the board here behind me. You can see here that 53 minutes or so ago, President Trump, well, this is a different one, but we'll talk about this one. This is over an hour ago. Well, here we go. So 53 minutes ago, he actually pinned this post on Truth Social, and it's a shot of the American flag. And I'm going to control this for us here, guys. Underneath that, he has that same Truth Social post. And then if you go down a little further, he talks about what he's going to be doing next. I will be giving an address to the nation at 10 p.m. This is Eastern time at the White House regarding our very successful military operation in Iran. This is an historic moment for the United States of America, Israel, and the world. Iran must now agree to end this war, he says. Thank you. He ends that. Before that, let me just scroll down a little bit further, and you can see that he also posted this. Open source intel, a verified account, says Fordow is gone. So you may be asking yourself, well, what is Fordow? Fordow is said to be kind of the apex of the nuclear activity in Iran. It's a nuclear site where scientists have buried underground some anywhere from 200 to 400 feet below ground is where they're currently working on their nuclear operations. And now, according to the president, Fordow is gone. What does it take to eliminate Fordow? Those bunker buster bombs. We had some video earlier of the stealth B-2 bombers. This is the only aircraft that can actually carry those bunker buster bombs, all right? And we're told that the U.S. may have used upwards of 6 of those bunker buster bombs this evening. Again, we're going to get much more clarity, we hope at least, when the president addresses the nation coming up in about 20 minutes from now. Back here in studio, I want to show you one more thing that the president posted on Truth Social. This is over an hour ago. Take a look here behind me. We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordow. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter, he says. All right, we have a lot of context and perspective. We have our political director, Lindsay Keith, who's joining us from D.C. tonight. We also have former commander of the U.S. Army Space and Missile Defense Command, retired Lieutenant General Daniel Karbler. General Karbler, let's start with you. First of all, your reaction to what we're hearing happened earlier tonight.
Yeah, Chris, I think that this is a continuation of President Trump's strategy.
General, we're having an issue with your microphone. Let's see if we can get that worked out. It may be our end, but let's get to Lindsay. Lindsay, can you hear me? And what are we hearing from the White House?
I can't hear you, Chris. Just to level set here, this is the most significant military action we have seen President Trump not only take in this term, but in any of his time as president, even in his first term. This is quite outstanding that he would take action like this against Iran. And it comes as just on Thursday, we heard from him directly from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt that he was going to give Iran up to 2 weeks of time to negotiate. And that was actually questioned yesterday on the tarmac when somebody was able to ask him, does that mean you're going to give them all the way to the end of 2 weeks, or could you take action at any time? And he would not answer that. He demurred. And we had the answer to that tonight. But one of the big questions here really that many people are asking, and we're trying to get answers from the White House, is will this be the end? Obviously, there's been a lot of controversy about the U.S. getting involved in forever wars. And as you read out in President Trump's Truth Social there, he has essentially said, these are the strikes that we have made. He has told some reporters that it was 6 mother of all bombs, 6 bunker busting bombs that were used through B-2 bombers. We'll see what he confirms tonight in his address to the nation. But ultimately, he believes that he could strike Iran tonight and will not embroil the U.S. in forever wars. And obviously, he has campaigned heavily on that he would be a peacekeeper and that he would get the U.S. out of forever war. So this is a very significant move by President Trump this evening. We're still waiting for Iran to respond. We have heard from one of its proxy groups, Houthi rebels, who have responded. But one of the questions is, how will the supreme leader respond this evening? We believe that he is in hiding. And also it was reported that he has already appointed 3 successors should he be taken out. And obviously we know that was on the table, even the president saying that earlier this week, that he knew where the supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei was hiding and that he could take him out easily. We know that's something that the Israelis they said was not out of question, that they would potentially target him. And so that's one of the other things we're waiting to hear tonight. Was this a part of the attack, not just 3 nuclear sites? Was the supreme leader taken out? So these are some of the questions that we hope the president will address this evening.
Lindsay, great context, great perspective. You said that, up to 2 weeks. Well, it took 48 hours. And so let's turn to Lieutenant General Daniel Karbler. I think we've got your microphone all hooked up. General, your thoughts on what we're seeing tonight?
Yeah, sure, Chris. I think what we're seeing here is classic Trump strategy and deterrence. So strategy, ends, ways, and means. The ends, unconditional surrender. The ways, just as Lindsay said, we can see you, we know where you are, we control the airspace. And then the means, our fighter aircraft, our B-2 bombers, the bunker buster bomb, classic strategy. And then you put into that deterrence, which is 3 parts, which is deny benefit. We've been able to do that with our defended systems, the THAAD, the Patriot, the Aegis, that's in Israel, the Iron Dome. Impose unacceptable cost, which is the bunker buster bombs. And then credible messaging, which we've seen the president do on Truth Social, and now he's backing up his words with actions. So I think that we've seen a melding of classic strategy as well as deterrence.
Lindsay, I want to turn back to you here, and in studio, I'm going to bring up some tweets from some notable lawmakers. Speaker Mike Johnson, Lindsay, has already gone to Twitter. Let's take a look at what he's saying real quick. If we zoom out a little bit, the military operations in Iran should serve as a clear reminder to our adversaries and allies that President Trump means what he says. The president gave Iran's leader every opportunity to make a deal, but Iran refused to commit to a nuclear disarmament agreement. President Trump has been consistent and clear that a nuclear-armed Iran will not be tolerated. That posture has now been enforced with strength, precision, and clarity. The president's decisive action prevents the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, which chants death to America, from obtaining the most lethal weapon on the planet. This is America First policy in action. God bless our brave men and women in uniform, the most lethal fighting force on the planet, as we pray for their safe return home. May God bless America. Lindsay, we're also hearing from Senator Thune, who had similar remarks. But, you've done a lot of reporting about the region and how the people in Iran, what they think of Americans. And help us give some context and perspective to that, Lindsay, and then I'll ask the general the same question.
Yeah, and let me just comment on some of the people who are responding on Truth Social. You also have Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, a Democrat, who has come out and praised the president on these moves. He's been a strong supporter of Israel. And then a couple people who were actually very critical of the president and his actions because they didn't want the U.S. to be embroiled in a forever war. Charlie Kirk, a huge friend of the president, has come out and supported the president in this. But I will say, one of the interesting things in the region, and it goes back similar to 2003, when President Bush attacked Iraq, he said it was to help the Iraqi people. And we see the same here from at least Israel's comments, that this war has nothing to do with the Iranian people. It has everything to do with the Iranian regime, which is the largest state funder of terrorism around the world. And obviously, we saw what one of their proxy groups did, Hamas, on October 7th. And this really has been the crux of all of this unfolding over the course of just the last almost 2 years here between Israel and Iran. But at the end of the day, a lot of the people in Iran do not like the regime. It's believed that around 30 to 40% actually are in support of the regime. About 93 million people that live there, about 40% of them actually support it. But the rest of them are in more support of a Western mindset and feel oppressed by this tyrannical regime. So it's a very complex situation that we're dealing with here. But really, what was at the heart of this issue is that you cannot have the largest funder of terrorism having access to a nuclear weapon, which Iran has said they were not trying to build a nuclear weapon. This was for nuclear energy sites, but all the intel would say otherwise, especially their actions, as they have proxy groups that specifically go after Israel, go after the U.S., the Houthi rebels, Hezbollah as well. And so their actions speak louder than their words. And it's also notable that other people have tried to jump in for diplomacy with Iran and have not been successful. Even just this weekend, France having a meeting with Iran and other U.S. allies in Geneva, which was not successful. So it hasn't only been the U.S., it's been other countries as well who have tried to broker a peace deal with Iran.
Lindsay, one thing that I want to hit on with you when we talk in a second, I'm going to get to some other folks, but keep this in mind. There are already people on the other side of the aisle who are condemning this attack, saying that the president needed congressional approval. So I'm going to let you kind of do your digging there. Specifically, there's someone in the state of Illinois. The name has escaped me. You probably know it off the top of your head. But look at that, because I want to ask you some questions about that. I want to turn now to Miriam Waba, a research analyst with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. We know that in Israel, they are now preparing for retaliatory strikes there in Israel. In fact, I read a report that only essential activity tomorrow, so no schools, no public gatherings. They're telling people to stay within 5 to 11 minutes away from their bunkers. Your thoughts on what we're seeing play out?
Good to be with you tonight, Chris. Look, we're entering a dangerous phase of this escalation, and despite the fact that this is a major success by President Donald Trump in the White House, what's coming next is it can be dangerous for both Israel and our American troops based in the Middle East. The Israelis are familiar with this. They know how to handle the ballistic missiles, although they are different from the short-range missiles that they know how to intercept from, let's say, Hamas or Hezbollah on its northern border. So the next few hours and days even can see real danger to both our Israeli allies and to American troops based all over the Middle East.
I want to come back to the studio here and give our viewers just an idea of what we're talking about when we talk about these bunker buster bombs. We should learn more. Again, the president is set to speak here in 10 minutes. So producers, stay on top of that. Let me know about the feed that we're watching. But this will give you an idea of what these bunker buster bombs are capable of doing. So the bomb can penetrate deep below the surface before it actually explodes. So think of a bomb that goes down and it hits the earth. Well, that will cause an initial explosion and will cause damage there, right there at the surface. But then the bomb actually goes deeper before it actually explodes. So it's called the GBU-57. We refer to it as the bunker buster bombs. They weigh about 30,000 pounds each. And those stealth B-2 bombers that we saw video of, it's my understanding that each stealth bomber can carry 2 of those. I'm going to get to General Karbler here in a minute to confirm that. But these bombs can penetrate 200 feet below the surface. All right. So if Fordo, which again we talked about, seems to be the main area that everyone's been talking about because it seems to be the apex of the nuclear activity there in Iran. If that's anywhere from 200 to 400 feet below ground, you have the ability with these bunker buster bombs to shoot one, create 200. You go another one, 400, another one, 600. So just keep in mind, if, again, we're still getting numbers, if there were 5 to 6 of these bunker buster bombs used in that general vicinity, we're talking about creating a cavity in the earth that goes deep, deep, deep. But Fordo is buried in the side of a mountain. All right. And so, again, you just have to understand what's needed to actually get that deep down. There's also reports, as I turn to General Karbler again, General, that there may have been some Tomahawk missiles used that were actually launched from a warship. I know you're retired, but I also know that you keep in touch with your colleagues and the brave men and women who are still serving. Do you have any intel to shed and your thoughts on the possibility of using the Tomahawks in combination with the bunker buster bombs?
Yeah, Chris. So I got to think, and some of my sources have told me that this was a complete package: strike fighters, bombers, as well as Tomahawks. And when you think about what the Tomahawks and strike fighters can do, they hit those peripheral areas around those bunkers, some of the vent areas, some of the air handling units. Those bunkers have to draw in fresh air from somewhere. Israeli intel is very good about identifying those vulnerabilities of those bunkers. So you hit those areas with what I would call the lighter missiles, meaning the Tomahawks and maybe those air-to-surface missiles off the fighters, off the carrier strike groups. And then you follow that up with the bunker busters coming out of the B-2s. What you explained, where we drop one or drop two, we call that inlining. So you drop one, and then you drop one right down the same azimuth, the same direction. And so what the first bomb does is creates the destruction, creates the hole, and then the second bomb goes even deeper and creates more destruction on there. And so my guess is when we looked at those three different sites, multiple B-2s carrying multiple bunker busters, I don't have direct information, but I would think that in the targeting, that's probably the process that our strike forces followed.
I want to turn now to retired U.S. Navy captain and foreign policy expert Armen Kurdian. Armen, let's talk pros and cons here as we have more people. Gerard Filitti, national security and counterterrorism expert with the Lawfare Project, is also with us. But Armen, let's start with you. Give us the pros as you see them tonight, with the U.S. getting involved with an escalation and an airstrike of our own.
Certainly. Good evening. There was no way that this was going to end without the United States finishing up the job that Israel couldn't quite complete. I never believed that Iran was going to be able to negotiate away its nuclear capabilities. So Trump basically had a time limit based on when he could actually take this strike, because at some point Israel was going to be done with the number of targets they could actually service. So it actually made sense for Trump just to kind of go in and do this now instead of perhaps waiting a week from now to actually do it. He probably knew it had to get done. So by doing it now, you had some measure of an element of surprise to finish up this target. The hope is that whether this target was destroyed or simply taken out to the point where you can't service it, knock out the shaft, entomb the area. You want to make sure you don't create some kind of a nuclear accident. Iran's capability of building a nuclear weapon, assuming they hadn't moved their uranium from that site, has been virtually eliminated.
Gerard, I want to turn to you and your thoughts of the response from people in the region, both the Israelis and the Iranians. What do you think the response will be tomorrow morning when the dust settles and we hear more?
The response from Israel is inevitably positive, that this was the right decision by President Trump, that this is something that Prime Minister Netanyahu has been urging President Trump to do for a while, and that the U.S. and Israel are in lockstep in confronting Iran and its proxies in their campaign of aggression in the region. Iran's response, we're already seeing on state TV. They're calling for targeting the U.S. military facilities in the Middle East and civilian population centers as well. There is an increased risk of terror attacks. Iran will not fight symmetrically. This is not, if this does escalate into war, this will not be a traditional air-on-air, ground-on-ground battle. Iran will use asymmetrical warfare, meaning it will target American bases in Iraq, in Qatar. It'll target the Fifth Fleet. These are things that we can expect Iran to do in the coming days. This is why President Trump has had the increased military presence in the Gulf, why the Nimitz is sailing or has sailed from Asia to the Gulf region, why we have a buildup of assets, and why we are prepared to counter Iranian aggression. The timing is unique because Israel has done such a good job eliminating Iranian air presence and air threats, which gave us the opportunity to actually utilize our forces effectively.
Miriam, what are the assets still in play for Iran here after, repeatedly for going on 2 weeks now, Israel continues to hit Iran with bombing after bombing, strategically hitting certain targets, taking out the air defense systems and whatnot. How can Iran strike back?
24 hours for us to get a complete picture of an after action report, what was done, what was successful, what maybe need to hit again. What the Israelis have done is pave the way for us to go in and hit Fordo. And whether we can debate whether this could have been done by the Israelis or not, but it was important for us, the Americans, the White House, to step in and to manage this issue head on. I think in the next coming hours, it'll be important to see what leadership Iran replaces, and how their decision-making apparatuses adapt in the coming days.
And we know that President put out on Truth Social just this past week to the Ayatollah, we know where you are. And with that, let's turn to Lindsay Keith. People on the Hill, Lindsay, are obviously reacting to what we're seeing tonight.
Yeah, that's right. And you have people on the right praising Trump, some on the left praising him, but very few. Most are frustrated by these attacks and concerned that they will pull the U.S. Into a forever war and embroil us into a major conflict in the Middle East. And mind you, Iran, some of their closest allies are Russia and China. And so we should be watching to see how they respond. I have not seen any comments from President Putin or President Xi so far, but they are very close allies of the president. To address your question that you had earlier, Chris, there is a question around if the president has constitutional authority to have military strikes like this. And of course, there's heated debate on both sides. I would say the most strict reading of the Constitution shows that it is only Congress who actually has the power to declare war. But the president in this scenario would say, I am not declaring war, and the U.S. actually has not declared war since World War II. But under actually an act that was passed, a joint resolution by Congress in 2011, the authorization of the use of military force, enabled whoever is the commander-in-chief to go after different military strikes and to use the military to strike targets that have become a threat or are seen as a threat. And so that's what the president believes that he is doing here. And that's why he believes this is one and done. We have gone in, we have used our forces to strike these nuclear sites, which are deemed as a major threat, not only to the Middle East, but to the world. And we are not engaging in further conflict. And that's why he says he wants peace now. And obviously, we've heard him say many times he wants his legacy to be that he's a peacemaker. Some people, even on his side of the aisle, are frustrated. People like Josh Hawley, that he did this. Tucker Carlson, I haven't heard from him yet or seen his response because they say it is not our war to get engaged in. And obviously, that is a very complicated conversation to have as Iran calls Israel the little Satan and the U.S. the big Satan. And you've heard many times, probably by now, you hear chants from the regime, death to America, death to Israel. And that's why they've created many of their proxy groups. And so a lot of concern from the U.S. And we heard the president even put out this huge list of the litany of times that he had said Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. It's not just the U.S. It is many countries around the globe, even countries who support Iran in this moment, who never believe that they should have a nuclear weapon or access to it. And even in those are included China and Russia.
Lindsay, we are about 30 seconds past the top of the hour now. We expect to hear from the president at any moment, but I want to keep this conversation going. Turning back to Lieutenant General Daniel Karbler. General Karbler, your thoughts, because I think what Lindsay's hitting on is, and again, I don't expect you to be a constitutional scholar, but it is what Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution is what's really in play here if the president did or did not have the authority to launch tonight's strike.
Yeah, Chris, the AUMF that Lindsay talked about, we all recognize it. Our soldiers have been shot at. Let's be clear here. U.S. involvement started when we deployed our Army air and missile defenders to Israel with the THAAD weapon system to defend assets in Israel. They have been targeted. They have been shot at, and they have defended Israel. We have the right to defend ourselves, and we have the right to attack any adversaries that are fighting against us. The president is well within his prerogative to be able to engage Iran. I'm glad that he has. He is backing up what he's talking about, and it's so as an air and missile defender, we don't have to just keep defending ourselves. We can go ahead and use attack operations to take care of those missiles, those launchers, before they are launched at us. So my hat's off to the president for following through.
So we have a live picture now from the White House. The president is expected to address the nation at any moment now. We can see the podium, the presidential seal, the red carpet there behind it. As soon as he starts to speak, we'll step aside and we'll listen for sure. General Karbler, just staying with you because we have you up. He's walking up now. So let's pause. Let's listen. He's surrounded there by Vice President J.D. Vance to his left, our right. You have Marco Rubio. You have Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Let's listen in.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So President Trump making it very clear, saying that this airstrike was what he calls a spectacular success. He says the bully of the Middle East, the #1 state sponsor of terror, Iran, has had its nuclear enrichment capabilities obliterated. I want to turn now to Lindsay Keith. Lindsay is our political director here for Dr. Phil's Merit TV. Lindsay, you are in a lot of these news conferences live there in the Oval Office. You've been in, you've sat there with Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, in the press briefing room. Your thoughts on what we just heard from the president?
I've also been able to speak directly with the president about his desire to have a peace deal with Iran. When he had a press conference with Prime Minister Netanyahu, I asked him specifically, why do you want this peace deal so badly? And he said he wanted to give the Iranian people a chance, and he really cared about them. And he has tried for the last several months to broker this peace deal. And, he said just this week at the White House that his patience was wearing thin. He had put on True Social, take a deal, take a deal. And, a very firm and direct conversation there. One of the things that really struck out to me that he said, if peace does not come quickly, we will go after the other targets with precision, speed, and skill. And what he is showing right now is my words carry weight. And when I say something, I will follow through. I gave these, Iran a chance. They didn't take it. And that is what is important for America. Obviously, we know the red line with Obama that wasn't drawn. And so many people were eager for President Trump, if he couldn't get a deal, to take action here. And that's what he's saying. If you do not follow through on peace, which now is your opportunity to do, there will be more actions coming. I mean, that is a very stark warning to Iran not to retaliate here. You have to remember as well, he brought up General Soleimani, who he took out back in 2020, I believe, was the year in his first term. And really, many people did not support those actions to take out General Soleimani, who is the head of the Revolutionary Guard and intel of all Iran and had American blood on his hands as well. And really, Iran did not strike back in a way that was significant. And so he knows, as we heard from the Supreme Leader just this week, he put on a post on True Social, or on X rather, and he said, you have to appear strong in front of your enemies. You cannot show weakness. President Trump knows, and so does Israel, that Iran is at one of its weakest states ever, and they are not in a good position to retaliate. And so they should broker a peace deal. It will be very interesting to see how Iran responds in the next few hours from now, because obviously they will try to continue to show strength. But Israel has really debilitized them in just the last week and really taken out their air capabilities, their ballistic missiles and so forth. And so a very stark warning there by the president. What else it told me, Chris, the last thing I'll say here is that the U.S. will continue to be involved if Iran does not respond with peace. This may not be the end, pending on the response that we see.
Gerard Filitti, I want to turn to you. Is peace possible here? And if it is possible, does it happen with the current regime in Iran?
It's very hard to see how peace happens with the current regime in Iran. I think what we saw from President Trump, what we heard just now, was his clear understanding that America's so-called forever wars have been the result of the Iranian regime, that whether we've had troops in Syria, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, throughout the Middle East, all of these wars, we have had men and women die to keep Iran out, to keep Iranian presence out, to keep Iran from expanding its terror regime throughout the Middle East and targeting the West. So ultimately, if we continue to tolerate the Iranian regime, the Islamic Republic of Iran, to this regime that is clearly bent on building nuclear weapons and attacking Israel, attacking the United States and Western interests, there is no sustainable peace. The only sustainable peace comes if there is an unconditional surrender, if there's a surrender not just of their nuclear program, but of their willingness to carry out attacks in the region. And I don't see how that is possible for this regime to do. For their internal audience, and in order to remain in power, they need to appear strong. They need to have some semblance of striking back. And I do not see peace on the table anytime soon.
General Karbler, as we wrap up our coverage here live on Dr. Phil's Merit TV, I want to ask you, it appears that Iran's strength comes through its proxies. Is that fair? The Houthis, Hezbollah, and does tonight's action, does it embolden them?
But really, over the last 18 months, Iran's proxies have been decimated. We have taken them out across the region, taken out their command and control, taken out their abilities really to be able to synchronize any kind of attacks and produce any kinds of capabilities that would make a difference. And so I think because they've basically been eliminated, that the attacks tonight, and we had to take that into our calculus, the attacks tonight, the proxies were probably thought of a little bit, but the risk level that they would present was not significant enough for us to worry about it. Now, mind you, all of our forces in the Middle East are going to take all the proper force protection measures to make sure they're defended against any kind of proxy attack, but I don't see them as having a significant impact right now.
General Karbler, Gerard Filitti, Political Director Lindsey Key, thank you all for jumping on television with us tonight to cover this very historic night here on Dr. Phil's Merit TV. We do thank you all at home for joining us as well, and we'll send you back now to Team Combat League Boxing here on Dr. Phil's Merit TV. I'm Chris Gutierrez.
They say it's the loneliest sport. No teammate to pass to, nowhere to hide. Just you and the silence. To survive here, you must evolve. To win, you must become something more. Because now, one fighter ignites the team. One heart unites the city.
I was drinking every day.
I was hooked on oxys.
My husband turned into someone I didn't recognize.
The addiction crisis. Worse than a pandemic, we have a growing epidemic. There are approximately 20 alcohol and drug-related deaths per hour every single day. Addiction is a disease. Like any other disease, it may have serious harmful effects and may lead to death if left untreated.
Introducing Serenity Springs Recovery Center, a place of recovery and rediscovery. We understand the unique challenges men face in their journey to recovery. Set on 38 private acres, our state-of-the-art facility offers a safe, supportive environment for healing and growth. Our team of dedicated professionals specializes in evidence-based treatment, providing our patients with the tools to overcome addiction and achieve long-term sobriety. If you or a loved one needs to make a change, call us today at 386-423-4540 or visit us online at serenityspringsrecovery.com and reclaim your life.
So when I tell people that I'm a boxer, a lot of times they don't believe me. Sometimes I make them guess what sport I play, and they would say maybe gymnastics or figure skating. When I tell them that I'm a boxer, they can't believe it, just because of the misconception of boxers, of how they look or how they're supposed to look. I love to always just surprise them with, what I am, the boxer.
Follow Christina and the New York Attitude as they begin their march for the title. Fridays on Merit TV.
In a world that's flooded with noise, remember this: the truth doesn't always just show up on the surface. You really have to uncover it yourself.
Presenting the facts isn't just a responsibility,
it's our driving force.
This
is the news on Merit TV.
We go back to Houston, Texas. Night has fallen in the southern part of the Lone Star State as we get set for the second half of our Saturday night TCL doubleheader. Two teams aching and now clawing for one of the final playoff spots in this 2025 TCL season. It's the Nashville Smash taking on the San Antonio Snipers.